You said in a book that people define themselves more and more with their religion. It becomes part of their identity. And you said that the event that is, like, pushed this forward is September 11th. Do you think it was September 11th, or was it there before?
Oh no, much before. No, I think it started much more. I mean, you can start with Khomeini and the Iran Revolution. You can even start, much before. There was a wave of. You can start with the Afghans fighting the Russians in Afghanistan. Well, even if you look at the roots, they're much more ancient. But for me, the two defining moments were first the Iran Revolution and secondly 9/11. Because 9/11, although many people believe it was a very spectacular act, it wasn't, for me, it wasn't an act of, what would I say, of strength. For me, it was the Islamists accepting defeat in a way. Because for me, Islamism, which is the ideology, as an utopia, had failed everywhere. It hadn't worked in Iran, it hadn't worked in Egypt, it hadn't worked in Algeria, it had failed everywhere. So therefore, instead of really trying to use Islamism as an utopia, as a sort of Islamic society, what they believe in Islamic society, they become very violent. They resort to terrorism. So for me, although it was very spectacular, 9/11 was a sign of, a symbol of defeat, of intellectual defeat.
You said Islam needs to be adapted to the times. It needs to be given its rightful place in hearts and mind, so it doesn't run our lives. Do you think it's possible?
That's you said it. I said it. Yes. I hope. I hope it will take a while, because Muslims, I think, more and more, again after 9/11, they're more and more conscious that. Because you see, the problem was that Muslims, they never fought Islamism. Because in a way, Muslims are hostage to the arguments of Islamism, because they take all their arguments in the Quran. They're smart. I mean, Bin Laden, he justifies all his actions from the Quran. All the Islamists, they justify it. So more and more Muslims, and I think the Muslims should read, not other people. They more and more they realize that, okay, the Quran might be something they believe was revealed or not, but it should stay in the hearts. Should not rule society, and should be just in the hearts. And therefore, and also they should put the Quran and the faith in historical. This is the other thing they refused, to put it in historical perspective. This is why it happened. See, I mean, Christianity, in a way, lost its fundamentalism. When with the age with Voltaire. And we're hoping for a Voltaire in Islam.
A lot of your photos have women. Do you find it easier to show the differences by portraying women? Or, like, for example, there's photos of women with their veils on in front of at a photo shoot, and then they take the veils off. And do you find it easier to?
Well, I'm sure if you count all the people in all my photographs, I think there are no more women than men. But I mean, women, I think they're half the world, right? Population, right? So, so of course, as of course, the whale as a symbol is interesting. But for instance, it wasn't me, it was the photographer who was using the whale as a symbol of what he was trying to say, or some other photographs, in Iran, So it's not easy, but in a way, it's sometimes, when you show a whale, it says Islam or Islamism or whatever. So in that sense, yeah, it's symbolic.
And also,
but it doesn't make it easier. You have to transcend this. Otherwise, it just become a caricature. You see, I try to use the whale not as a caricature, but beyond what it is, just a piece of cloth. What does it represent? Well, again, I leave it to the readers, to tell me what they think.
Something else you said is that you're more interested in the consequences of war than war itself. How so?
Because most photographers, when they say they're war photographers, they're not really war photographers, they're battle photographers. You see, wars does not limit itself to boom boom, the battle itself. wars are very, very complex phenomenon because they have a source and it takes a while to come up, and then then it happened, there are consequences. I'm more interested in the why and the afterwards of the wars because it's much easier to work. I mean, basically, do I have a picture of? No, I don't have a picture of. But you see, I mean, the boom boom is in a way it's easy to photograph in a way. And what they say, courage is okay. You have to be courageous, but for me, courage is a sort of because I was in similar situations. It's a lack of imagination. You cannot imagine what's going to happen to you. Therefore, you go to the actual battle. But the wars are very, very complex. So I consider war photographer somebody like Philip John Griffith, who didn't cover just the action in Vietnam, for instance. You see, he didn't just cover the battles, but the before, the after, all the social phenomena, all the consequences of the war. He's a war photographer, not a battle photographer.
So the selection of your work for this exhibition, do you have a say in which photos are going to be shown? How does the process?
Well, an exhibition is something very limited in time, and also because my statement is in my book, obviously. But I'm happy I did this because also I tried to show how a book is conceived. I mean, the result is here, it's the book. But I wanted to show its concept. Therefore, contact sheets, work prints, tentative layouts, tentative covers. This is all important. I think people get the message. The other problem with the other reason I did it is because in Perpignan, and this is a choice by Leroy because he doesn't want people to feel that one picture is more important than the other, so he let them decide. But he plays the anti-intellectual, anti-artistic side of photography because, well, I think there is a snobism about artistic, but there is a snobism in anti-artistic. So all the pictures, they all have the same size, and because they want to use the frames again, so I can understand that. But so I decided, I just didn't want a series of photographs, same size on the wall. And so that's why, I had the making of the book. And I think people appreciate it. I mean, I've been looking at some people looking at my thing, and I think they appreciate it. Want to get the point without any comments,
Thank you very much.